Hello and happy New Year, Xbox Nation. Welcome to the first episode of 2022. This is the Xbox Factor Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Mr. BoomStick XL, and we have an absolutely outstanding show for you today. I am back with my brothers. I could not be happier. We are less one brother. If you didn't know, Zemi Games officially has left the program because guess what? He got an incredible job. It pays really well. And of course, his seat is always going to be open if he ever decides that he wants to come back, even like if just part-time or he just wants to pop in. But yes, Zemi Games has officially left the building. We wish him the most incredible success because he is a very talented young man. And I think he's going to do great things in his new position. So we're excited for that. We did get someone to sit in and replace Zemi Games. And that comes in the form of Mr. Joanna Dark. Now, this is a gentleman that has exploded on the scene when it comes to community awareness. The way he interacts with gaming, with gamers across the world, across the globe, and that's PlayStation, that's Xbox, that's Nintendo, that's everybody. And he made such an impression on the few shows that I worked with him that I actually asked him if he wanted to join. And yes, folks, he will be making his official first appearance as a standard panel member next Tuesday afternoon. I'm sure he's going to be in the chat and he's listening. He's currently doing some work meetings that he obviously couldn't get out of, but we'll get him back here next week for his first episode. But let's introduce, these gentlemen really don't need introductions, but they're going to get them anyway. We're going to start first with Boxenberger on camera. How you doing, brother? Happy New Year. How are you and the family?
Happy New Year to you too. Happy New Year to Pong. Happy New Year to Mav and to the entire community. I'm glad to be back here. I missed it the last 2 weeks. I missed my brothers from the other side of the world, missed the community talking about games. So I'm super excited for today. We have an exciting year for Xbox ahead. And we are going to have a blast here today. So yeah.
I have a feeling, Boxenberger, that I don't think Microsoft slows down. I think they step on the pedal even more because last year, if you take the last 6 months, because obviously they started out 2021 a little slow, but I always look at the overall picture, never just one particular instant that says, okay, that was a winning move or whatever. When you play a game, you play for 60 minutes, right? And Microsoft was in this game for the entire 21 campaign. And they delivered pretty much on all fronts. First party, second party, third party, and Xbox Game Pass just exploded with content. And they're continuing the trend with some of the biggest releases from Annapurna. That they just dropped some little games that I downloaded every one of them because they all looked very interesting. And obviously, one of the big ones for January's Xbox Game Pass was Mass Effect. The trilogy, the HD remastered trilogy is in there. That's courtesy of EA Play, which is a part of the service. Look, we're going to get into what they're doing this year. And my God, if we thought, or you, the panel, and of course the incredible chat, thought that 2021 was big for Xbox, I think 2022 is going to be even bigger. And I think Microsoft will still retain the conversation on gaming. But Pong So, first of all, brother, it actually feels like we've actually worked together, and it actually is true now.
It actually is true this time.
But listen, Happy New Year! Great to have you back behind the microphone to be here today. Xbox, man, they look like they are positioned to really dominate the conversation once again. How are you doing, man?
Doing great. What a 2-week hiatus. That sometimes you need it to re-energize, but I miss my extended family and all my podcasts for sure. I miss the chat. I miss all my brothers and sisters that I get to podcast with. So it is kind of bittersweet to go through that, but the holidays are the holidays. real life, spending time with family,
Super
friends
important.
this year. Super important. Re-energize. Got some gaming in, which was good. I was busier than I wanted to be during the time off, but I did get some gaming in. So yeah, no, looking ahead, boom, this is 2022 now. First of all, happy New Year's to everybody out there. Love you all. I hope you all had a fantastic holiday, whether between Christmas or New Year's or both. I just hope everybody's starting off 2022 right. And we certainly are here, boom. And we got a lot of Xbox to talk about because it is looking good. The crystal ball, it's on fire right now. So let's go. Let's go, boom. Let's get talking. If I forget how to do this, if I just stop talking mid-sentence, please, somebody just nudge me. Let me know I gotta talk. Okay. So anyways, love you all.
Yeah, no, we're gonna have a great show.
Yeah.
And rounding out the incredible panel, who is just a blast to work with every week because of his knowledge, his the way he conducts himself in the public eye. Someone that I'm proud to call an extended part of my family. Mav, what's up, brother? How are you and the family? And are you ready for Xbox in 2022?
Heck yeah, I am ready. It's been too long because I wasn't able to be on the last show of the year.
That's right.
For Xbox Factor, so it's been a few weeks, man. I miss this. I miss hanging out with Archie and Pong. It's gonna be sad I wasn't able to be on Zimmy's last show for this also. So shout out to Zimmy. Sorry I wasn't able to be there for your last show on Xbox Factor, but I'm sure we'll run across each other again.
Oh
in the
yeah,
future.
yeah. He's definitely going to be coming back at one point or another. And if it's not like a regular show, he'll be jumping into like
Yeah.
one of the special edition ones that we'll do.
Right on. And super happy to get to work with Mr. Joanna Dark. I guess next week, probably. So that looking forward to that. And hey, 2022, it is here. We are in a new year. It's much different than going into 2021, right? We were talking about early 2021. Is Xbox able to capture and ride this momentum? What are they going to do? And now it's like Xbox had such a crazy 2021, especially the last 6 months. It feels like they have captured all the momentum right now. And now it's like there's a level playing field across the console space in
Yes.
gaming. And now it's like with a level playing field, that's where the real fun begins, right? It's where the all the smash hit games that are going to be coming out this year. We get to see all of them on both platforms and have a blast. And I can't wait for this year for Xbox. It's going to be amazing for the things that we do know about, but there's going to be a lot of things also that we don't know about. So that's going to be awesome as well.
Yeah, it's funny you say level playing field because if you look at the three bigs, Sony apparently has have bookend the year. At least that's what their Twitter account is suggesting, where we're getting Horizon Forbidden West, which one of my most anticipated games. Listen, I don't got to go into why I love Aloy as a character, and I just love those big open world games. So that's why I have a PlayStation 5, right? So that's exciting. Gran Turismo, look, I'm going to be honest with you. I'm probably going to wait for a sale because I was a fan back in the days, and I just think that Polyphony has let its fans down time and time again. So I'm not in on a $76 game at Jump for what it could potentially just be a regular Gran Turismo without the bells and whistles. We don't know. And God of War, right? God of War is what people are expecting. I still think it's going to be delayed until 2023, but it would be a great surprise if it did release in like October or November of the end of the year. And they would have basically pulled a Nintendo when the Switch first came out, right? They launched it with Zelda Breath of the Wild, and they bookended that year with Mario Odyssey, and it was a great year for the platform. But Xbox, folks, is what we're here to talk about. And my God, the lineup that is currently what we know, what was announced over the weekend, and some of the things we think may or may not be happening. Holy shit. I mean, they have really positioned themselves to dominate the conversation, and I'm not surprised by this, and I don't think anybody in the panel and anybody in the chat should be either, because Microsoft, we've talked about this before, they are a very big ship, and it took a while for Phil to turn that ship around, like any entity the size of Microsoft, specifically with Xbox. And 2021 started out a little slow, but it was helped with a lot of the big indie titles that launched day and date into Xbox Game Pass, like The Ascent. People don't talk about The Ascent. The Ascent is one of in my top 10. I absolutely loved that. And there were so many other smaller
The
indie
Artful
titles.
Escape.
The
That
Artful Escape is,
store,
yeah, dude. It's
all those.
it was just a great way to experience Xbox. And basically the end of the last 6 months just was banger after banger after banger. And now we're rolling into 2022, and we're going to get to it in a bit, but I want to open up with some bittersweet news. According to Aaron Linde of 343 Industries, or formerly of 343 Industries, he was the lead writer, one of the formerly lead ND on Halo Infinite. He has left the company. He is now the senior narrative writer at Riot R&D, and this is what he had to say on Twitter. Bitter news to report. I'm departing 343 Industries to pursue a new opportunity in 2022. It is terrifically difficult. It was a terrifically difficult decision. Halo Infinite will remain one of my proudest achievements of my career for the rest of my life. I am so grateful to have been a part of it. And he continues, I want to thank my dear colleagues at 343 Industries for making the best game I've ever worked on, our incredible voice cast for evaluating our work in every single line and delivery, and our players for joining us on this wild-ass journey. You made 2021 an incredibly special year for me. And he finishes it off with this. I feel squiddly talking about real shit on this stupid website, so I'll leave it at that for now, but I can't underscore enough how grateful I am and always will be. See you in the next mission. So we got some opening words from someone that has left the building. He was a big part of 343 during the writing for Halo Infinite. And the big question now becomes, with him leaving, and obviously that there would be a gap if we did not know that Joseph Staten had come back and has taken a lead position over at 343 Industries. I want to get everyone's opinion, because I am not surprised by this move. Not but specifically, I never knew who he was until I read his tweet, because 343 is a pretty big company, and I'm only one person. So I'm happy that he enjoyed his time writing the story that we got a chance to play in Halo Infinite. Again, if you folks didn't know, I gave it a 10 out of 10. I still believe that, and I'm going to stand on that rock and die there, because they delivered in the biggest way possible with a ridiculous amount of pressure on them to actually pull it off. There was a huge subsection of the industry and this particular community that expected 343 to fail. There's no doubt about it. I never thought that. I thought that they had some difficulties, sure, but there's no doubt that they delivered an incredible game. And I'll start first with Pong Soul. Pong, I want to go to you first on this, because we were talking behind the scenes.
Yeah.
We are expecting that this is not going to be the last move.
Yeah.
Where people from 343 Industries move on to bigger and better things, simply because, well, that's what happens normally once a big project is done. But we cannot forget that this game, led up to the release with a lot of drama, a lot of turmoil in the production of the game, and people that may or may not delivered. You would expect that they are going to be move on to other things.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, no, I mean, you kind of laid it out there, Boom. Obviously, when you have a project as big as Halo Infinite has been over the years, you're going to have people moving in and out. And if you look at specifically Aaron Linde, since we're talking about him, if you look at his LinkedIn, you can see that he has been around the industry for a while. He has moved from place to place. He was at Bungie from April 2019 to August 2019, working on Destiny 2 Shadowkeep. Then he moved into the lead narrative designer at 343 into that role. Him and his team were responsible for the open world narrative content in Halo Infinite. They did all the, the audio logs. They did a lot of the enemy talk, the grunt talk, all that kind of stuff. So that's what his team was specifically involved in. So I don't think that this is anything but normal contractual moving on. I think that he was signed for a specific purpose. Now that the game has launched, his purpose has been fulfilled. And it was time for him to move elsewhere. That's just kind of the whole deal. He's been at Gearbox before. He worked on the Battleborn game for Gearbox. He was at ArenaNet working on Guild Wars 2. Again, this is normal movement for a team of this size. And like you said, Boom, I don't think this is going to be the last one by any stretch of the imagination. Now that Halo Infinite has complete, you're going to see a lot of the people that were there for specific purposes up until launch now move on and go find hopefully new and better horizons out there. And I think that's exactly what he is doing here. And obviously we know Riot Games is in a hiring spree right now. Riot Games has been building big time. They are becoming a large player in this industry. And so, good for him. I'm happy that he got to move on. What a way to start off 2022. Something fresh, something new. Yeah. He is now a narrative writer 3 R&D over at Riot Games. So hopefully we'll be seeing more of his work. But hey, mission accomplished. He did his job. He led a team that did an awesome work within Halo Infinite. Again, he was responsible for a lot of the open world narrative content. And I think we could all agree, any of us that have been playing through or completed the campaign already can say it's some of the best stuff out there. The grunt work, the grunt talking. Yeah. I could sit there and listen to it. It's like stand-up comedy. You just sit back and listen to those guys talk. So
yeah, dude, that's a great point. I was unaware that he was him and his team was a part of that. And I can tell you this right now. Every time I find one of these propaganda towers, I stop and I listen, because if you ever take the time, it's hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. One of when someone posted, which I thought was brilliant, and you hear one of the grunts say, "Hey guys, I just want to let you know I found out Master Chief's real name, and it's John. John, are we actually afraid of a guy named John? Now that's freaking brilliant." I mean, I heard one talk about his grunt talk about his girlfriend. He's got to get her a present. I mean, what's going on here? Yeah. And you know what? Hats off, because the open world is one of the best aspects of Halo Infinite, because it allows player choice. Right. Take on what you want to do. I spent hours, tens and tens of hours, just riding around trying to find the next group of Marines that needed my help, to find the next propaganda tower, to find the next log, to find the next a piece of armor for multiplayer. It was brilliantly done. I'm of course going to be interested to see what he does next. But I think with Joseph Staten being the lead, we're going to get some incredible content in the future for Halo Infinite.
Yeah, for sure. I think this is just par for the course. And I think with Joseph Staten, he's got the layout of exactly the roadmap of that they're probably going to want to take this whole game in different directions. Again, we've talked about that before, how many different narratives they can bring in. That he's got that laid out, right? He's the architect.
I would imagine.
Yeah, he's the architect, right? So he's going to bring in people to help him flesh it out, and those people can come from a lot of different places depending on what type of narrative style they're going for. So again, this Aaron Linde, he had a specific role. He led a team that was something very very focused on a certain aspect of this game, but overall, Halo Infinite is in the best hands possible in Joseph Staten. So no worries here. Looks great. So the future is bright for this team as a whole. So
I absolutely agree. I don't think I could have agreed anymore. Well said. Let's bring in Boxenberger. Boxenberger, you obviously work at a big company and you see people move around on a regular basis. Is any of this surprising to you? And are you happy that he's not without a job? Because listen, I mean, obviously he leaves. When you leave a job, it's always great to know that that person or persons, team, are not going to be sitting like, oh man, what do we do now? So it's great to know that Riot Games hired him. He obviously has a significant amount of talent. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, it's not surprising. Pong hit the nail on the head. Happens all the time, especially in projects like a game development, which is it's a very closed project. Yeah, you start the game, you ship it, and um, you have to have contractors. A lot of contractors work on these games. Then you have obviously the staff, the permanent staff, but yeah, stuff happens. Can be for private reasons, can be for personal reasons, can be for whatever career opportunities. That is totally normal. The turnover in a company, and especially in those project focus companies, is normal. So I wouldn't read anything into that. Yeah, like you said, Joseph took over. It is actually the way I see it is an opportunity for Joseph to now put in the narrative lead of his choice. Obviously, he's not gonna write the next Halo himself, but he will have a different lead writer, and he gets to pick now who gets that position. So yeah, that's a good opportunity to make it make his mark on the next game, and yeah, normal stuff. Wouldn't read anything into it.
Yeah, and I mean, like, we'll never know unless he writes the books. But the way he sounded, he left on good terms. I mean, obviously, it sounds like he just did what he needed to do, got the team to the end of the line. They finished the race, and now, obviously, there are going to be big changes at 343, especially especially a lot of the contracting work to get the game done. People are going to move on to do different things. And of course, we wish him only the best of luck. Mav, finish this off for us, brother. Again, are you surprised by the move, and more importantly, do you expect more announcements?
Well, so I'm just to be honest, I'd never heard of this guy until he left the studio, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
As far as that goes, I mean, this kind of stuff was always used in the past to like, oh, trouble at 343. There's trouble at Rare. There's trouble at this studio. All this stuff. And realistically, Pong's right on this. People switch jobs, and
All the
especially
time.
in this industry, it happens very frequently. So it's not like he's moving off into some like crappy job either. I mean, this Riot Games is onto a lot of huge stuff,
Yes,
right?
they are.
And you talk about League of Legends, and they're working on Arcane stuff on Netflix. They're doing our Valorant. I mean, they have some smash hit games, right? So it's not like he's just going off and working for some podunk, little game company because he was struggling to keep a job. Now it's probably had a great opportunity, and from what it seems like, he's going to be leading the narrative on new creations for
Yes.
Riot Games. So that's a pretty big opportunity. So congratulations to him
Yep.
on that. As far as what it's going to mean for 343, I think it's just going to mean that somebody else is going to take his role. But ultimately, Pong and Archimedes are right that it's ultimately Joe Staten's what he says is going to go there. He's got the last check mark on anything that's put into that game. It seems like now, and that's what is going to shape Halo Infinite for the future. Now,
Indeed it
if
is.
Joe Staten moves on, then we'll be having a different conversation about, okay, how's the direction of 343 going to go?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that may happen at some point, because he hasn't stayed in the same position himself for extremely long time either, right? Even within Microsoft, he's moved around a little bit now. So we'll see how that plays out over time. But I think the worry about Halo Infinite has finally subsided. Right.
Yeah. It's a great point. I want to add to that. I want to get your opinion on this. What they did with Halo Infinite is lay the foundation for the next 10 years, right? We understand that it is a 10-year plan with Halo. We're not going to get a Halo 6 or 7. What they're going to do is, I believe it's going to just be Halo Infinite, semicolon, whatever the situation may be. I don't know how big the next installment is going to be, whether that's considered. I mean, are they doing story content? Are they doing big open world? Are we going to visit another Halo ring? Are we going to meet the Flood on a different planet? I mean, we'll never know, but they are in a position where, trust me, when they brought back Joseph Staten, it wasn't because 343 couldn't deliver. They just needed someone with an extreme I don't know, recipe to write good Halo lore, and he does that in his books. So he is in the position. They needed him to come back. He did. Now, did he throw the entire 343 Industries on his back? I don't know. I honestly I have no idea. But it seems like when he returned, things seem to get better. Now that's because he is a leader. And how long he's going to be at 343i, I hope that he doesn't leave, to be honest with you. Wait a second, folks. We got a surprise guest here, welcoming his first episode, who we didn't expect him to be here, Mr. Joanna Dark. What's up, dude?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we certainly can. Yeah. Welcome.
Hey, Happy New Year to everyone. Hopefully my new mic sounds okay. I don't sound like I'm eating up the mic.
No, it sounds good, dude.
But I think I heard Halo and I was watching the show and I said, you know what? I think sometimes you just need a new perspective, especially with Infinite and kind of the way the story went. And they've been kind of putting the pieces. I loved 4, and I think Infinite kind of has a new direction, and I'm excited. One of the things that I liked about 343 is that they're really going deep into that lore and kind of explaining some of the things that many users may not want to just read a book. So I like where it's going, and hopefully with the DLC, I would love to see another ODST with Blue Team and kind of give us a backstory. I think that's one of the things that was terrible about Halo 5 story, is that they assumed many users knew who Blue Team was or Cyrus. And even I, at one point replaying, I was like, oh, wow, Locke is in Halo 2? Man, I forgot who he was.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you need fresh perspectives, and that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing, because, again, if this is going to be a 10-year plan with Halo, you definitely want to get people that were either fans of him and kind of bring you kind of that fresh kind of mentality into where they want to take the story, or even provide better context and better eyes. So, my hat's off, and whatever the writer is, I forgot his name on top of my head.
But, Joseph Staten.
Not Joseph Staten.
Aaron Linde. Aaron Linde.
Yeah. And what he's going to do, that's always great. Sometimes we do need that, change of scenery. But I'm excited. I mean, I guess I'll ask the panel as we're on Halo, do you think the first DLC would be something based on Locke, or?
I'm hoping it is. I'm going to be honest with you. My issue, I think Locke is a fantastic character, and he has a significant amount of worth for a story to tell. The problem with Locke and Osiris specifically, because they were thrown into it, and you're right, people did. I think they might have assumed that everyone read the books or watched the live action Halo with Locke in it. Like, I watched it, and even as a fan of him from the show, I felt like they didn't do his character enough justice. We didn't get to learn about him. And again, not to bring up old wounds, the marketing for Halo 5 was extremely different to the actual game that we got. So, I went in thinking we were getting this, and we got something else.
The Truth got me so hyped, and then when I finally played Halo 5, I was like, what is this? I thought I was going to be hunting down.
I think that happened to everyone.
Something that has been pondering kind of as I think of the DLC, right? We have all these characters that we don't know was going to happen. I would love instead as well is for 343 to find a way to make different games under different genres that can shed the story on Halsey or Commander, all these different players. So, give me a Gears of War or tactic type game where I'm fighting parts of the war as it leads into the Banish, and because not everything can translate into a first person shooter. into that formula. So I would love to see some change of pace in what they do with Halo. You know, I'm still waiting for that survival horror Halo type game where you're just
what I'm hoping for, and I think they know we want it, is an ODST2. Or at least a story told.
Please,
give us a story told. And you said survival horror. It would be fantastic if it was like a dark, first-person open world where the flood was involved, and you're down. You have a limited amount of weapons, and you have to fight your way through. It'd be pretty interesting. But I think we're going to get all of that for sure. But I want to move on to something that happened over the weekend, folks. This completely came out of left field. Talk about a way to start 2022. Over the weekend, we had a tweet from the official Twitter account of State of Decay, and they've been pretty quiet as of late, and they said simply this: bringing big zombie energy to 2022. Now, with that information, like I said on the new episode of X Vlog, which I posted yesterday, that does not guarantee that State of Decay 3 is coming out in this year, but it certainly does suggest it. And on that note, I got to bring into the conversation once again someone that has consistently dropped big pieces of news, someone that I think you should follow if you are an Xbox fan. Clobriel has once again, dropped a massive bombshell regarding Undead Labs and their new support studio in Orlando, Florida. And here's what he had to say on his official Twitter account. It looks like Undead Labs is building a new support studio in Orlando, Florida. And this is the quote: developing a new Microsoft studio under Undead Labs in Orlando, directing animation using Unreal Engine 5 for State of Decay 3, and fostering cross-studio animation technology initiatives across Xbox Games Studio. That is pretty big, and I'll start first with Pong. Pong, look, we know that they are, and I say they, Microsoft Game Studios has a few bangers in the chamber, in the form of Redfall. We're getting a new Forza Motorsport, and we got Horizon last year. We're also getting Deathloop, which launched last year on the PlayStation 5 as a timed exclusive, but that is officially coming to the Xbox. And we also have the granddaddy of them all, God Howard's Dream, known as Skyrim in Space. And of course, I'm talking about your favorite game, Starfield, or one potentially will be your favorite game, because obviously when you say words together like Elder Scrolls, and then you say space, and I'm in. And when you sit back in the chair, right, and you say, well, we kind of saw this coming. Microsoft did in fact say that they wanted one AAA game per quarter, and that kind of fits the bill. But it doesn't appear like that's all we're getting this year. Besides the second party and third party deals that are bringing games exclusively and first into Xbox Game Pass, I think we're going to get a couple of more first party bangers, and this might be one of them. What are your takeaways from the tweet? It's a little auspicious, don't you think?
It is. I think we definitely hear about it this year for sure. I definitely think we finally see something this year as well, whether that be at E3 or maybe another show. But I think Undead Labs, it's due, right? And we see this in the industry where everybody's kind of different on how they ramp up when they're getting ready to talk about something. So sometimes it's a surprise. Sometimes we get, hints here and there. And I think this is definitely a hint. And I think that we've been hearing more and more news about Undead Labs and what they got working on with State of Decay 3. And we're going to talk about it later too, the new studio that possibly, that they're working on to kind of help the rest of the Microsoft teams get up to speed with Unreal Engine 5. All that kind of stuff kind of leads me to believe that we are definitely going to see State of Decay 3 in some form this year. Now, whether or not that's actual release, that's I guess what we're talking about here. And I don't think we get a release this year. Like you said, Boom, second half of this year, once again for Xbox, is lining up to be stacked.
Yes.
And I don't, when we talked about this, we've talked about so many times about how Microsoft has so many things in the works. Xbox has so many games in the pipeline that how are they going to make sure that they all get their spotlight, right? And I think that that's going to be the key going forward. And you talked about it just now, Boom, that they want one game per quarter. And, Mav has done a full video on actually how many games they have, and that actually might be more like one every 2 months, maybe even some years one every month, which is ridiculous to think about. But I think with this year specifically, we're going to rely early on in the year, unless there's a big surprise announcements, which there always could be. I think we're going to rely on third parties again to kind of carry the early part of the year. And then the second half of the year is going to be gigantic. But specifically for State of Decay 3, I could see an E3 showcase. They're going to have a lot at E3. But I think that State of Decay 3 could be one of their headliners, along with Starfield. The Starfield's going to be massive at E3. We already know that. So I think that from Xbox Game Studios, outside of ZeniMax, outside of Bethesda, I think that State of Decay 3 could have a big presence at E3. And I think that we're going to start seeing this build up slowly as we get towards the summertime of some news coming out of Undead Labs about State of Decay 3. And I would not be shocked, if that's how this kind of this time flow goes leading up to that. So I'm excited. For me, State of Decay 2, I was heavy into PlayStation 4 when State of Decay 2 launched. So I got into State of Decay 2 later when I hopped back into Xbox. But the changes that I've seen, State of Decay 2 is such a different game now than it was.
Oh, yeah.
What Undead Labs has done to continue to support that game. And I think they, announced, I think it was, it's fall last year when they announced that they had surpassed 10 million players on State of Decay 2. It's a credit to what that team is doing. So I expect huge things from State of Decay 3. I can guarantee you that team, if they are moving to Unreal Engine 5, right? That we know this game has been in production for a while, but if they are moving to Unreal Engine 5, as the news kind of sounds, I have huge expectations for this because I think that team wants to put its stamp on Xbox Game Studios. They're kind of the forgotten studio, right? There's a couple forgotten studios with all the news, with everything going on. That game, because of State of Decay 2, how it came out originally, a lot of people did not see it progress. Maybe some people jumped back in later on and said, wow, look at all the work they did. But I think they learned a ton from State of Decay 2 and how to make a game. And I think that their original vision for State of Decay was a lot bigger. And I think this is finally their time. They now have the resources. Xbox is obviously giving all their studios all the time they need. So I think that's why I think this year is a little too early for a full release. I think Undead Labs is going to make sure that this State of Decay 3 is more in line with their original vision of this gigantic open world, with drop in, drop out, multiplayer capabilities, a lot more expansive story. I think that that's what we're going to see. And I think that 2023 is a much more realistic kind of release
that would
date.
put it on par for 5 years in development.
Yes,
if they started right after, because remember, May 18th of 2018 is when State of Decay 2 launched.
Yep.
Then obviously in June, which was only a month later, they were announced as being acquired by Microsoft, and they supported the game with numerous iterations, making the game what it is today, and it is fantastic.
Yes.
Scary as hell to play, but fantastic nonetheless.
It's not though, because you know me, I can't play horror games, right? So Boom. It's done well enough where I can play it and I'm not scared, right? I'm not freaked out like Zemi. Shout out to Zemi.
I'm scared. Okay, so let me rephrase it, because I'm not afraid, but you're always afraid to die.
Yes, you don't want to lose.
Permadeath.
Yes, you don't want to lose your team.
And if you're out there and you got to you're carrying big loads of stuff like medical supplies and food and stuff, you don't want to have one of those things pounce on you and tear you to shreds, and you're like, oh shit, that was my favorite character, damn it.
Yep, exactly. It does stink. It does stink. But that's part of the adrenaline rush as well, right? When you play survival type games, it's part of the adrenaline rush. And I thought they did a fantastic job with making you care about losing one of your family, your team that you brought in and that you're building a base with and that you're moving around with. They actually did make you kind of care about a lot of them. And so I feel you there, Boom. I think they take that to the next level with State of Decay 3, State of Decay 3. And I hope they also give us, again, a bigger narrative. I really hope that we have a single player experience as well as a survival aspect.
I'm going to come back around to that because I have a question for the entire panel. But before we bring in Boxenberger and Mav, we only have Mr. Joanna Dark until 1 because that's when he has his meeting. So I want to get his opinion on him, get him in, get him out, and he'll be back next week for his full podcast debut. Mr. Joanna Dark, are you there, sir?
Yeah, I'm here. I think Pond made some good points on State of Decay 3. One of the things that we want to remember is that the original team had 4 classes they wanted to make the game in 4 phases. And class 4 was supposed to be originally kind of a massive multiplayer online role-playing game. And that kind of shifted over as the success of State of Decay 1. So looking at this title, I think we've kind of talked this in DMs and everything. I would love a strong single-player narrative that takes elements of what we saw in a game like Days Gone, but still keeping what makes State of Decay, unique. And maybe find a way to kind of improve the matchmaking and make it kind of drop in, drop out co-op in a living world. I want to feel that what I felt with the first one, that kind of, hey, do I really want to go and attack these zombies? Kind of like what you get in Dying Light, where you're kind of saying, do I do this or do I go around and scavenge? I think with the time that they're being given, and now that they have this backing, I think they're going to do a phenomenal game. They'll be able to make their original vision for what they wanted to do with State of Decay. And with the fact that there's so many games launching from the first party studios, I think it's great overall, because what that does is that you're not rushing any team to just put out content. You're using your partners, and then at the same time, you're giving these teams to bring out these amazing games that we're going to get. Personally, with this support studio, do I see a 2023 release? Possibly, but I think more of a 2024. I think one question I want to ask the panel is, do you think Undead Labs should use State of Decay 2 as a vehicle to test out some of the things they might have that they want to implement to the game, and use it kind of as a vehicle to kind of transition you into what State of Decay 3.
They certainly could. If the game is going to come out in 2020, see, that's the beauty of Xbox Game Studios currently right now is they have 23 studios that we know of. I think that there are more have been attached. Those announcements are coming. We're going to get into that as well. And if you listen to Primetime Gaming last night, we're all, I think the consensus of the panel from last night, which, by the way, Crazy Lou Gaming completely knocked it out of the park. He's in the chat. This is a gentleman that is on the 12th launching their very own Xbox International, which I think you should follow him. You should follow Mr. Joanna Dark. These are folks that are going to be a part of this new show launching on the 12th of January. And it was great to work with him. He was fun. If you see him on the socials, he looks like he's fun, and he delivered. He was funny last night. Great to work with him. But the position that Microsoft Game Studios or Xbox Game Studios finds themselves in is probably the best of the big three. And I say that because they currently have 23 studios. And Pong said something very important to the conversation. With 36 teams is what we know of. None of the teams are in a rush to get a game done because they have so many games already coming close to being released this year. Next year is going to be, an assault of games. But I do think you're onto something. They could, in fact, with State of Decay 2, which is currently being played by millions of players and quite enjoyed by millions of players, they could implement some things that they want to potentially try out for 3 and use that audience as a test base for some new ideas for the next game. That's well put, Mr. Joanna Dark.
Yeah, no, I think part 2 kind of came out in it didn't capture me personally, but I know with the recent updates that they've done, the lighting and everything, it's like a night and day game. I think they have to kind of hone in on that whole survival type of, not horror per se, but kind of the aspects of the enemies. To me, the art style was a little bit different.
Yes.
More cartoony.
Yeah.
And I guess besides that, change some of their art style. I mean, I would love to see a game if they could take elements from Days Gone with the Horde mode, where you're kind of planning with your team to maybe go in and get some supplies and then kind of scout out and be able to put traps and kind of use the environment to your, like, to overall interact with it. I think that would also be another great thing in State of Decay, to kind of use those environments to capture zombies or stop, when you're going to Plague Hearts and you're being overrun by them, being able to use those environments to kind of overall kind of stop that.
Drop a tree on a horde. You know what I'm saying? Like set dynamite by a bunch of trees and make a blockade. Yes, things of that nature. I would, with Unreal Engine, I think it's possible. Especially we're only now seeing the power of Unreal Engine 5, and I think that, remember, I did up until just the other day, I had no idea that it was going to be Unreal Engine 5. I thought it was just going to be Unreal Engine 4, and here we are talking about it today, and it is UE5, which is great, and I can't wait to see what they bring to the table. Before I bring in Boxenberger, I do have to catch up some of the super chats. We have quite a few of them. The first one of the year for this show comes to us from our good friend Gerald Mack. He drops an outstanding $5 super chat, but it's what he says that warms my heart. Happy New Year to the hardest working man in content creators, Mr. Boomstick, and the esteemed panel. Salute. Well, thank you for the very kind words, and of course your generosity and the support that you bring. Pragmatic Eagle it drops an outstanding $5 super chat. Good friend of the show. He says, hope everyone had a peaceful and enjoyable holiday with family and friends. Here's to greater things in 2022. Hashtag Gamers United. Indeed, brother. Thank you so much for that. Chris R drops an outstanding $5 super chat and says, might be reading too much into it, but it seems like Phil Spencer has less public facing lately. Is his retirement sooner than we might expect? No, I you know what? I just think that he took a bit of a backseat during the holidays to kind of recharge the batteries. And look, I think Phil's got, I don't know, 3 to 5 years in him before he retires. And the guy's a lifer at Microsoft. He's been there for a very, very, very long time. It is because of his guidance and his vision and his leadership that Microsoft is in the position that they are currently in. Are they winning? Yeah, they're winning. Have they taken over as market leader? No, not yet. But do I believe that is going to happen under his watchful eye? 100%. And that's not being a fanboy. That's just look what they're doing. Everyone is behind Microsoft in one way or another. Microsoft is leading in many ways, and they're leading the conversation, which is how you win market share. And that's how you become the market leader. And they are slowly but surely ramping up to that. And last, at least in front of me, what I can see, Lady Foxfire, good and generous friend of not only this show, but the entire community. Darling, thank you for being here. She says this: hi, everyone. Happy New Year, Boom, panel, and chat. Looking forward to all of the new gamers and announcements. Hit that like button. Thank you. So, thank you for that. Yeah, because that's one thing I never ask. I always get scolded by, the likes of Colt Eastwood and Cog and other brothers that I work with. They say, you never ask for the people to hit the like button. I always forget. I'm just having so much fun doing this that I just forget. But Boxenberger, you and I have been on the same page for many, many months when it comes to certain teams working on certain games for a certain amount of time. And I understand that State of Decay 3 is going to be Unreal Engine 5, but I kind of think that they're a little further along than some people may be giving them credit for. Obviously Pong thinks early 23, and that seems about right. But I don't know. You drop this message in there, bringing, zombie antics into 2022. It kind of sounds like a declaration, but maybe I'm looking too much into it. What are your thoughts?
I had similar thoughts. Obviously, Unreal Engine 5 is a given. I think every Xbox game that uses Unreal going forward will use Unreal 5. The engine is due to in I think next month. It's the official release, and Unreal 5 is very special because it is compatible to Unreal 4, which is
easy
new.
moving it over is supposedly extremely easy. I'm not a developer. I'm a boob, so I couldn't tell you if that's true or not.
Just one example for when they moved from 3 to 4, they used a different script language. So all your scripts you had in 3 didn't work in 4, so it was kind of hard to transition everything over, and similar things were for assets and stuff like that. So this is not the case anymore. I think that's why we can assume that every game going forward will come out on the Unreal Engine 5. Not every game will take full advantage of all that Unreal has to offer, but moving over from 4 to 5 is for me a given. About State of Decay 3. Last week, I dropped my video Xbox in 2022, and I had State of Decay 3 in there because I've seen a lot of rumors circling around in forums and on Twitter, and people speculating about it. In 22, they had like 4 years to develop that game, which is kind of long, especially given that these were almost the entire 4 years. They were already a part of Xbox. Yeah, so that's definitely one thing. 4 years sounds long. Obviously, you have to take out 1 year for COVID, the COVID thing. So that's 3 years. Is it coming out this year? I don't know. I said it's a maybe because in my video because, my original thought was 23. But then when you think about it, what is coming out in 23? There is so much coming out in 20.
Bonkers, dude.
It's insane. It's really insane. And I don't know if they want to.
Has too many games. New hashtags.
23 is going to be nuts. And so they have to make this plan now because they cannot squeeze everything into 2023.
Yeah.
So they have to move it either out to 24 or beyond, which then is kind of long.
Yeah,
like 6-7 years development cycle for.
Next year, if you were to add State of Decay 3 to the conversation, what are we talking about in 2023? We're talking about Avowed, Fable,
probably Fable, Hellblade 2, Perfect Dark.
I mean, that's just
probably the next Tech game we have. Yeah, so it's a lot. We have also the Compulsion game, which is either this year or next year.
I think it's this year. I think that's one of the surprises.
Could be. Yeah, but you see, definitely next year we have a lot. And so where do you put State of Decay 3 there? Obviously, you can't put it out when it's not ready. But on the other hand, you cannot. For me, it's kind of hard to think about it as a 6-7 year development cycle for that game.
Yeah.
Usually, what we have seen is that games from smaller teams don't have these long development times. Yeah, you can look across the entire industry. If teams are smaller, they don't take that long to make a game. And Undead Labs is a smaller team. So, where do we fall here? I don't know. I said a maybe. It could also be a very early 23 title. But we shall see. The other news part of this really got me excited is the animation studio, the support studio that they founded. The funny thing is when I read that tweet from Klobrille, is that I remembered immediately a big interview that was 3 years ago or so with Matt Booty when he just became head of Xbox and they went on that acquisition spree. And then Matt Booty spoke to I think it was Larry Herb who interviewed him and said, he went to every studio head from every studio that they acquired and asked him, what is the one thing that he or she wants for their studio? And then he took out the example of Undead Labs, and Undead Labs said to him that they want to become the world leader in animation. They want to have the top tier animation team. And when I read, they're building a support studio, I immediately thought of this interview because I thought this was really cool. And for them, putting this now, not just as a, here you have a bit of money, hire some talented people for Undead Labs, but make a dedicated studio that is truly committed to deliver top tier animation quality that all the other Xbox studios will also benefit from. That really got me excited. I love the idea. Make support studios that focus on special thing, on audio design, on animation, whatever, and then give one of the main studios the lead, in this case obviously Undead Labs, but all the other studios can participate, can benefit from the findings and experience of that studio, and that is a really good thing. I think this also shows you that with State of Decay 3 we can actually expect a AAA title. I don't think State of Decay 1 and 2 were considered that. I mean, State of Decay 1 was made with a budget.
That was State of Decay 1 was an arcade title, for crying out loud. You know, and what I'm saying?
It's made with a funding, a budget of $100,000. This is literally nothing. But look, the game turned out great for what it was. And I still think State of Decay 2 is a super underrated gem. That 100%. Game is just amazing. What they've done with it over the course of the years, the improvements are fantastic. But I also was super addicted to it when it came out.
I put almost 60 hours into State of Decay 2. Yeah. I loved it.
I would have to check, but it's probably a bit more for me because I stayed up all long nights for that game. There's just something addictive to this loop. But I'm kind of with Mr. Dark here. I would have loved a little bit more focused, streamlined single player experience.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. Yeah, we're going to bring that back around because I do have a question that I've seen is currently going on in the chat right now. I think it's important to this particular conversation. So we'll come back around to that. I just want to bring in Mav real quick, and I'm going to throw a general question. Mav, what are your thoughts, brother? I mean, they go and they again start the year off with this tweet, and I don't want to misquote it, so let me read it exactly. Bringing big zombie energy to 2022. What does that mean for you?
I think it means they're always bringing big zombie energy at Undead Labs. Yeah. I think one thing about Undead is they've consistently had support for their games, which is another staple at Microsoft.
Yes.
Right? Yep. The games that they've been coming out with, these big franchises, which when they acquired Undead Labs was part of building this franchise, right? Yep. So they've done that with support. And I think you could look at State of Decay and look at that game and see how they may have implemented things that they've learned with State of Decay into other franchises that they're building, where they launch it, they improve it over time, they continue the support, and we see what State of Decay 2 is now today compared to what it launched like. It's a completely different game, right? It is an amazing experience now. It launched with a lot of issues, just like the first one. So when we talk about release dates, I don't want to put too much stock into that, thinking this year. And the other thing is, I don't think we need to really be too concerned about Xbox having too many games, because that's always going to be a problem going forward.
Yeah.
Right.
Great problem to have.
True that.
That's a good point. 2024, 2025, 2026, the problem's only going to get worse. So it's not really a problem. With Game Pass, you take away that competing for each other phase, where now you're actually enticing everybody into one purchase. That one purchase is increasing its value with every property they bring into the fold, as opposed to, hey, I got to make a decision. Am I going to buy this game or am I going to buy that game? No, you're looking at it as like, you get all these games, right? So that's the game. And that's when we did that video that Pong referred to. That's how you're going to get those massive amount of subscribers, because you're going to have something for everybody, right? And I think Undead Labs is a
great point.
Making this franchise and building it into something bigger than we've ever seen before, which goes into Mr. Joanna Dark's point about what their original vision was. And the original vision was to be that end-all, be-all zombie survival game, right? It's to be this big multiplayer zombie thing where we get to live out the fantasy of living in a post-apocalyptic world and building a community with friends, right? And they've achieved it to a certain point with State of Decay, but based on the history that we have with Undead Labs and how the games launched with State of Decay 1 and State of Decay 2, with where I think they need to go for State of Decay 3 to live up to what we all hope for, I think it does take at least that 5 years. Okay. So that would mean summer of 2023. The other thing is you look at the original release date of State of Decay 1 was 2013. State of Decay 2 was 2018. That's a 5-year cycle.
5-year deal. Yeah.
So
indeed.
if you go into State of Decay 3, I would think it could potentially even take longer. You got to factor in COVID has been in the mix in the middle of development of this game, right? As well as you're also implementing new engine, new tech. You're growing the studio. Since then, they've been acquired and have been in a growing phase. Now they're adding another support studio. All of these things take time, and it builds into something much larger than we've ever seen for that franchise. So 2023 is, my opinion, what we would think of for a release date, because I think if it comes out any sooner than that, it's not going to be necessarily what I think they want to build, right? And I want them to take as much time as they need to build what their dream is, and I think that's why Xbox acquired them, is to make that dream come to fruition.
No,
I think we'll see it.
I think you're onto something, and of course now here comes the question, and I'm not going to go from person to person. Just jump in, give your opinion, and we'll move on to topic number 3. This is of course for the chat as well. Look, one of the things that I quite enjoyed about Days Gone by Ben Studios was the fact that it was an open world, single player, story driven title. Now, I said this on the X vlog that I posted yesterday. For me, it was a little too open for its own good. The game was very, very big. It was a very ambitious game, and it didn't hit on all cylinders. So now, where does State of Decay 3 come into the conversation? Well, for me, I don't mind the open world aspect and the multiplayer aspect of the franchise. I think that is where its roots are. But after seeing the reveal trailer with the African American female, who I thought looked incredibly interesting and fierce, I want to play as her. I want to know her story. I want to know what's going on with her. You know what I'm saying? And I walked away from that saying, well, what are they showing us? Are we going to be playing her story? Which is what I kind of hope that they do. Because listen, one of the things that you get with Xbox games that they are infamous for is you get games with both sides of the coin. You get a strong multiplayer, which is what Microsoft and Xbox are known for. And we know that they want to deliver strong single-player, story-driven titles. We've all been asking for that. I've been asking for that. Cognito has been asking that from the Iron Lords. Hashtag just one. And I would love to be able to play as this woman that we saw braving the world of State of Decay. And I think that, again, no one is suggesting that they need to be a Ben Studios, but I personally think I would love to see a single player campaign in the form, whether it be massive or not. So by all means, anyone jump in.
Boom.
Yes, sir.
I think they kind of did that a little bit with State of Decay, and I think you're onto something. I would love a tight narrative story that starts with one group. And similar to what you saw in State of Decay 2, what they gave you 2 story-driven narratives from 2 different perspectives.
Yep.
Maybe you take the route of what maybe Halo Infinite or maybe Sea of Thieves and give you story content that from start to finish, and then drop in, as you continue to expand the lore and the world of State of Decay 3, stories from different people. And it kind of like, again, I may be asking too much, kind of like The Walking Dead, where you have 3 different Walking Deads. You eventually have a storyline that brings these characters into a narrative eventually down the road. And you can kind of give these small little stories within the State of Decay world while you still play multiplayer, and find ways to kind of weave this into the story, into the open world aspect of kind of giving you bits of, when the next drop is coming. Again, this is just me fantasizing as a fan of how I would love to see something like State of Decay. I think there's great stories that you can tell and provide within that world that hopefully are at the level of what we hope comes out at the end.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in here?
I just really want to quickly add. Mr. Dark hit the nail on the head. The thing is, it will be difficult to mix that open world survival formula with a story narrative driven kind of experience. But they don't. Hopefully, they don't shy away from that challenge. But I would definitely love to have a campaign, something narrative driven, to bring me into the game and then actually get familiar with all the mechanics and everything, and then get thrown in the survival multiplayer mode. Good point.
I think they achieved this with some MMOs and stuff and how they do story elements, right? With like especially with like JRPG, like Final Fantasy and games like that, where they find a way to bring in an overarching story element that has its cutscenes and has moments and stuff like that. So that would be for me the way they would implement it, as opposed to just having a more of a focused on one character aspect.
Yeah.
Because if State of Decay has been defined so much as something that people have certain expectations for now, right? Being able to hop between the different characters, and you're managing all these different things, and if you take away that, then it changes the essence of what they've been trying to create all along as well. So I don't know if it can live in both worlds, but if they implement it in the other kind of way, which that cutscene to me looks something similar to that. It's like setting up a story, right?
Yes, I agree.
Not necessarily having to play only as that character, but it's setting up a story and an environment and a setting for us to have an interest in. And I think that implementing things like that are going to make the game more engaging, right? And more focused without losing the overall arcing aspects of what the gameplay design is. You know what I mean?
I mean, Pong, we'll come to you in a second, and we'll move on to topic number 3. I just want to add to the fact that, look, I see there are people in the chat that don't want this change. Change is not a bad thing, folks. No one wants State of Decay to lose its identity. No one's even suggesting that at all. But I think that it behooves the Undead Labs to tell a story within this world. I think we all want to try, and we're all going to play the game, whether it be by yourself or with friends, and you're going to build your community, and you're going to continue to live on, and you're going to battle the zombie hordes, and you're going to battle the big ones that throw up on you, and have a great time doing it. But I honestly believe that the franchise is too good to simply just say, okay, well, it's an open world survival game and go at it with Unreal Engine 5. I think it would be, in my opinion, a missed opportunity to build on what they have. Pong, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think it could live in both worlds. I don't think that there's an issue with creating a single player mode outside of the MMO style for those that want to enjoy. What about a whole mode where your goal is, as a single player, to survive for as long as possible? It's not just about building finding a new home, building a community. You could have a whole narrative around a lone survivor out there in the wilderness, out there in the wild, trying to get somewhere, whether it is to let's say a main base where survivors are gathering, whatever the case may be, but your trip there could be the actual narrative. So I think you could create a whole mode where it's just a single player survival type situation where you are out there against all odds, trying to make it to someplace safe. And I think that again would be possible. Now, whether or not that's what Undead Labs wants to do, we'll find out. If that trailer was a hint to something like that, fantastic. Maybe, like Mav said, it was just to set up kind of the world or kind of the experience that we can expect. Whatever the case may be, we're going to find out soon enough. It's going to come. We have so many games. It's not like we're going to be sitting around pacing, wondering what we're going to play until State of Decay 3 comes out. So I think that eventually we will get this. That's why I think a reveal this year, giving us a better idea of what they are going for, is so important. And I think that that's why we are going to see it this year. But again, for me personally, I'd love to see a separate mode, individual against everything, trying to make it somewhere, with a story to go along with it. I think it would be fantastic. It would be a great addition to what they've already built and what they're building out even further, or at least what we think they're going to build out even further from State of Decay 2. I think it would be fantastic either way, but I think we're going to get a better picture come this year. I think we really are.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, listen, before we move on to the big topic of the day, we're going to be talking about Microsoft's first party for 2022 and what surprises on top of what we know are coming and how big of a year this actually could be for Xbox Game Studios. I got to thank Drawn TJ for the outstanding $10 super chat and says this: Microsoft can release 10 big bangers a year as long as they market it enough, because first party games never leave Game Pass. So people don't have to worry about enough time to play the game. That's pretty interesting. And you know what? I think that every time they do release a big AAA bomb, they should push the narrative that, hey, everyone, it's in Xbox Game Pass day and date, and get more people to sub the service. Mr. Joanna Dark on his way out drops an outstanding and very generous $5 super chat and says, gentlemen, it was a pleasure and happy I could hop on for a few to chat with you guys on the show. See you next week. Indeed, you certainly will. And thank you for the generosity. But I want to start. I want to bring in to this conversation how important last year was for the momentum that Microsoft seems to be coming into this year with. Look, we talked about it briefly. They have Deathloop. They have Redfall, which I think Deathloop is already a winner, right? It was in many Game of the Year conversations for a lot, so that's coming, right? That was a timed exclusive for PS5, and now the sequel will be, exclusive to Xbox, and it will get a sequel. There's no doubt about it. That's coming, and I bought it for the PlayStation 5. I briefly played it, maybe 5 or 6 hours, but I will sink my teeth into it on Xbox because that's where I enjoy gaming. And of course, Redfall looks like it's going to be a winner. And of course, you have Forza Motorsport, not officially announced, but we know that they've talked about it. And the next iteration will be coming out this year at some point. And of course, the granddaddy of them all, which I think is going to be one of the big, really, really big ones, specifically for Todd Howard and his team. This is a dream game come true in Starfield. But I have a feeling that those four are not the only ones. I thought State of Decay 3 was one of them for sure. We just got a confirmation from Special Nick over at our good friends at Xbox Era that GoldenEye remake, the N64 GoldenEye, is coming exclusively to the Xbox. I think it actually might be coming on to the Nintendo Switch at some point, but I know that it's not coming to the PlayStation 4 or 5. That's why I say exclusive to Xbox. And that's a big get. But I want to go to Boxenberger first on this. One title that no one seems to be talking about that you and I, again, on the same page, Wolfenstein 3. That has to be
Wolfenstein.
Listen, I'm never going to get it right. Wolfenstein. I'm never going to get it right, but I am going to say this. I think that the third iteration has to be coming out this year. It's been development. I think you clocked it at 5 years in active development, and that's just one of them. The game from We Happy Few. My God, why am I Compulsion Games? Folks, I'm excited for this because I know nothing about it, but what I do know that Phil Spencer, when asked specifically last year during an interview, what is the one game that we haven't seen that he's most excited for? He obviously, one of the games, he said, can I pick two in this interview? One of which was Perfect Dark, but he didn't say Perfect Dark first. He actually said Compulsion's games, and that game was supposed to be a mix of Uncharted meets BioShock. Yes, sign me up, please. How many surprises are you expecting Microsoft, big or small? Because there could be some small ones in there. Do you think that all we're getting are the four that we know, or do you think they're going to deliver some big surprises this year?
Well, I mean, obviously there are going to be surprises. Let me touch on the two you already mentioned before I go into another one. Wolfenstein 3. The game is more or less due, because we know that they are already working on the next game after Wolfenstein, and that is obviously the Indiana Jones game, which is in early production, but it started earlier in 2021. I think it was in February or March when we got the official confirmation that that game went into full production. So yeah, the team had to, at Machine Games, they had to do something over the course of the last 5 years. They have not been sitting around doing nothing for 5 years. So I think obviously that's Wolfenstein 3, and they want to bring that trilogy to an end so that they can move over the full studio to the Indiana Jones game. Wolfenstein 2 came out in October 2017. So yeah, that would have been 5 years this year. I think that's a fair time, given the team enough time to move over to It Takes 7. The last one still ran on It Takes 6. Doom Eternal was the first game that ran on the It Takes 7 engine. I think the game Wolfenstein 3 will also run on that engine, and I think it is due this year. We also know that Bethesda usually announces their game relatively close to launch. I think Starfield is really the exception that proves the rule. I can't remember a Bethesda game that was announced this early. Usually they are just announcing the game and a couple of months later it comes out. So Wolfenstein 3, good chance. Then the Compulsion game you mentioned, Jez Corden from Windows Central leaked that game. The project name was project codename Midnight. It's apparently a game that is set in a dark, fantastical world. So no mention of that BioShock meets Uncharted, from which we all heard over the years. But apparently it's a dark, fantastical game. I also take that. Compulsion had 6 years. Yeah, We Happy Few came out in 2016. That's 6 years. And again, that team also didn't sit around doing nothing for 6 years. So sometimes when I read, I posted something like that on Twitter and someone commented, yeah, but that game is in pre-production, early production. I said, dude, what have they been doing for the last 6 years? Yeah. So obviously, that game actually, Jess also said it's apparently relatively far along. So why not? 2022 release, 6 years of development time, 4 years of those within the Xbox studios. Sounds realistic to me. Well, then we have a couple of other things. I've seen someone talk about the In Exile game.
I've heard that as well. Yes.
I think that's too early.
I agree.
I definitely think that is too early. Obsidian said that they want to release a game every year. That's their big plan. Not every game will be a big AAA full production title like Avowed or Outer Worlds. But yeah, if they want to fulfill that, we need an Obsidian game this year. Avowed? Well, given the time they have been working on that game, I think it wouldn't be unrealistic, because that is also at least 4 years in development, probably a little bit longer, because Avowed was the reason that Microsoft bought Obsidian in 2018. So in 2018, they had something to show Microsoft, to pitch to Microsoft, and they didn't just show 2 PowerPoint slides. They obviously had a pre-production build or whatever. Yeah. So I say at least 4.5 years in development now. Could launch potentially. That's a good timeline. However, at the end of this year, we get Starfield, another big RPG, and I don't think they want to bet another big RPG against the other big RPG. So I don't think Avowed is coming out this year. So what do they have left? We have recently heard that they have a smaller game in development. I can't recall the code name, but that's apparently a passion project from a very small team. That is something that I could see released this year, maybe along with a full release of Grounded, although I think that game will just be what it is, which is nothing against it. I'm just saying it still hasn't officially released, and we shall see. Then, well, Fable, Hellblade, not this year. I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think you mentioned Forza Motorsport. The other thing that I want, and the last thing I want to mention, I could mention a couple of things, but is Contraband. Technically not a first-party game, I know. However, it's a publishing deal from the publishing arm of Microsoft. It's exclusive to the Xbox ecosystem from Avalanche. And the thing is, when they announced that in 2021, in the summer in 2021 at E3, that game was announced, they officially said on their website that they have partnered with Microsoft more than 3 years ago to develop that game. Again, that means that they partnered in 2018. Yeah. In 2018, they must have had something of that game, an early prototype, an idea to pitch that to Microsoft. So the game is at least, was in 21, at least 3.5 to 4 years in development. That makes something like 4.5 to 5 years in 2022. So that is definitely for me a possibility to come out this year. And then I think there will be 1 or 2 surprises that nobody thinks of, because we've had those with Microsoft in the past. And yeah,
I'm Special really Nick seems to think that it's a remake of something that we did not expect Microsoft to drop. So that's one of the big rumors. He didn't specifically say what it is, what remake. He said, though, he does have it on good authority that a specific remake is coming as an Xbox exclusive, something that the fans have been asking for and didn't expect for them to deliver. I don't know what it is, but I'm very interested.
Yeah, I mean, I think we will see 1 or 2 other third-party exclusive deals coming this year. We know that Xbox partnered with a lot of studios like IO Interactive with Project Dragon, with others that are in the works. There was an entire list of code names that leaked in 2021.
14 so we know of them, that actually. Yeah.
Pardon me?
14 of them, I believe.
40, yeah, exactly. So there's a lot of them, and I think 1 or 2 of those will be in 2022. So yeah, big year for Xbox, even bigger than 2021.
Yeah, crazy. Pong, let's get your opinion on this, brother. I mean, the deck seems stacked for Team Xbox. Again, if they just finished the year with the 4 games, we know that's a banner year on any level. If you look at what Sony did last year, they started out the year strong and they completely flopped. By the end of they literally had nothing first party releasing. And I mean, obviously that's going to change this year with Horizon, Gran Turismo, and the potential of God of War, which would be a banner year for them. And they have a couple of Square exclusives that are 2-year deals that are releasing on the console. So they're going to have a good year. But I think Xbox is poised to have an even better year, and a better year than 21. And that's hard to match, considering how many great games released last year. Pong, what are your thoughts, bro?
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this so much, Boom. It's pedal to the metal from here on out for Xbox, right? They're not going to let up in any way, shape, or form, and they're building momentum. I alluded to it in our first conversation that I think this year is 2022 is going to follow a lot of the same pattern that we saw last year, with some better quality in the beginning of the year, starting with Stalker 2, right? So I think that this year is going to be about the third-party deals. Jeff Grubb has reported that they've got billions, in holding for Game Pass specific third-party deals and second-party deals. And I think that we're going to start to see that being spent this year as we move in. I think we're going to get some big surprises from third parties dropping into Game Pass, much like we did last year, but even bigger. I think we might see some really stuff that we never even thought would be dropping to Game Pass this year for sure. And I think they end the year with a bang. Now, the only thing that I will push back on is Wolfenstein 3. I was on that train last year. And as I've read more and heard more about Machine Games and what they've been doing, I don't know if we get Wolfenstein 3 as soon as a lot of people like you and our communities are thinking, because they've been working on the Quake reboot. as a support studio,
Yes.
and they are also for anybody who doesn't know, and they're also, I think, all hands on deck with the Indiana Jones game, and I really think that that's their focus.
Now, do you think that's going to stay exclusive?
Oh man, that's the biggest question of all.
I have it on good authority that it is.
Absolutely, it is. But what Pong, I really have to ask a question because I've seen that a lot. People say that a lot. The Quake reboot, we don't properly know, was greenlit about a year ago. What have they been doing the past 4 years before that?
Well, Youngblood came out in what, 2019?
Yeah, but it's not from them. They only supported it a little bit.
They supported that studio too, right?
But there's support. Again, you have an entire studio, 160, 170 people.
Yeah. It's somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay, could they have been working on Indiana Jones the entire time? Because we don't know when that deal was done.
I don't think so. Everything we know is that game went into full production in, I think it was February or March 2021.
Right. That's when we got the announcement. I'm just saying, prior to that, could they have been working on it before the deal was actually announced?
You don't have a full studio.
Yeah, no. I know you don't have the full
pre-production for 5 years or 4 years.
Well, look, if Wolfenstein 3 is ready to rock and roll, fantastic, right? I was on that. I thought there was a potential for last year for it to come out. So I'm just curious because there hasn't been any word of it. And you're right. We do know that ZeniMax Studios, Bethesda specifically, but ZeniMax Studios in general, don't talk about a game or show a game until it's close to, right? That's kind of their MO. Yeah. So is it possible? Absolutely, it's possible. I just think that it's hard for me because Xbox has so much in development. And you just listed off you had a great list there, Archimedes. And for me, it's really hard to wrap my head around how they're going to space this out properly because they have to do that. They can't. I mean, at some point, you got to release the game. At some point, you do. But do you hold back or allow for more polishing on certain games because you have that extra space and room to breathe now because of the simple fact that there's so much and you don't necessarily want. We all as gamers would love it, right?
I think to a certain. Sorry if I jump in.
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
100% to a certain degree. In the end, it's still a business, and Microsoft knows how to run a business.
Right.
So you can't just say, okay, we give them an extra 4 years and suddenly the game is not a business case anymore.
Right.
The thing is, I think you can space it out, hold back a game that is actually finished for a half year, maybe even a year. Probably they could do stuff like that. In the end, I can't remember who was it. It was someone on Boom's panel during prime time a couple of weeks ago. Who said it, and I think that is a very good thing to think about it. Microsoft wants to have diversity in their lineup each and every year. So you can expect one RPG each year. You can expect one shooter every year, hopefully a racing game every year, and so on. They will spread that out. So if we think about how do they lay out their release schedule, what do they put when? Next year, in 2022, we don't know about any other first-person shooter coming. Okay, Wolfenstein could fill that gap. I don't think they will put the Quake reboot or the next Doom or whatever in the same year with the Wolfenstein. And the same goes with the RPGs. And I think this is kind of what we need to also consider when we speculate about these things. They want to spread out different genre. Yeah.
No, and I agree with you wholeheartedly, and that's why I was shaking my head when you were talking about Avowed and Starfield. Same. That's why I don't think Avowed comes out at all this year. I think at the most, Phil's plan is to bookend the year with RPGs. So Avowed could be spring, next year, and then Fable. Let's just say. I mean, again, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying Avowed spring of 2023, and then Fable
bookend the year, dude.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
That's a fantastic point because let's just say for hypothetical, and of course, Speculation Town, our favorite place to hang out, co-mayors, all of us. You drop Avowed first quarter of 23, and then holiday 23, you bookend the year with Fable. I mean,
Fable.
Wow.
That means you have Starfield, Avowed, and then Fable. I mean, that's exactly what you want, especially for engagement.
And then Outer Worlds in 24,
Correct. You have the perfect. I mean, they've got it, and we're not even talking, compulsion throwing in there. We're talking about so many RPGs as well. So I would love to see it if I think it's possible the Quake reboot hits this year during Christmas time, and that would be the first person, if id's been working on that again after Doom Eternal came out, that they decided to move into the Quake reboot. That could be ready by the end of this year, and I think that would fill that first-person shooter mode. And then Wolfenstein maybe next year, early Q1, with Avowed. Then you got your RPG, you got your first-person shooter again, like you're talking about. That's the interesting chess match with this is how are they going to move these pieces to make sure that it's constant, but to also make sure, to your point, Boxenberger, that it's got a diversity of new games for everybody rolling into the ecosystem. And I think that that's the important part. And I can't wait to see how they do this, because again, they just have so much content that, but even if, let's take all that out, you got Redfall, you've got Forza, and you've got Starfield. That is one hell of a lineup for the second half of the year. And that's not any surprises. That's not third-party deals. That's not, whether Contraband's ready this year or that's the next year. Contraband sounds like a good summer game for 2023, much like Redfall is this year. I think that lines up perfectly. So again, you're talking about a massive lineup. We already saw what happened this year with their lineup that they rolled into the second half of the year with, and how it dominated the news cycle. Every single month was dominated. And that's how I think they've got this year lined up again. I think 2023 is the year that we start to see from beginning to end first-party titles dropping on a consistent basis, big AAA first-party titles, whether that's once a quarter, once every 3 months, once every 2 months. I think that's when we see that cadence really begin, is 2023. But this year, they are lined up already. And again, with how they've planned it out, if what Grubb is saying is true, they got billions in the bank ready for Game Pass deals. That means they're going to front load this year and then give us some, good ones through summer, holiday, another big batch again of great Game Pass stuff on top of their first party. I think they dominate again. That's why I do believe a lot of people are talking about God of War getting pushed out. I don't think Sony can do that. I think they're going to bookend it with Horizon and then God of War.
That would be a big year for
need
Sony.
it.
They kind of have to have something this holiday.
It's not
can do it again.
Yeah, because it's not their MO, right? Everybody falls back on, well, Sony's never cared about the holiday. Look, Sony ain't stupid. Sony knows exactly what happened this year, and they weren't in the news cycle at all. They tried to force their way in. They did some really creative marketing stuff, which I give them props for. They took advantage of when Xbox was in the news. They were pumping out their own stuff on Twitter and social media about Horizon and all that kind of stuff. That's smart. But they know that they have to come up with something for next holiday. And I think that's why they bought those support studios. I think those support studios are going to be all hands-on for the PC versions of God of War, Horizon, but also to make sure that God of War does bookend this year, because they do need it. They're not dumb, and they're going to do it. But again,
I couldn't agree more. I want, if I may add one thing. You're 100% right, because Sony could afford it in 2021 because they were selling all the consoles they built anyway. So and that's their main business, still selling consoles. The thing is, at the end of 2022, this is slowly going to change. In 2023 and beyond, we won't have the shortage anymore. Right. Or at least it's getting significantly better. We will still have shortages, but it won't be that bad. Yeah. So suddenly you have to have something to sell your console and to market it properly. It's not going to sell itself.
Yeah, correct. They're under the gun, and Microsoft is on their own beat path right now. They're marching to their own. They're creating their own path. They don't need to worry about anybody else, because they are so stacked right now. Yes, they still have to be smart. Yes, they still have to do it from a business standpoint. They have to make sure that they have their roadmap laid out the way that it's going to be most effective to actually capture the attention that they had this past year, especially the second half of the year. They want to continue to capture that, so that word of mouth is spreading. We've seen the ripple effects already, so they're going to continue to do that. But at the same time, they're not worried about the Sonys or Nintendos of the world anymore, because they have so much, so many bullets that they don't have to say well, what are they doing over there? We got to match that. No. It's everybody else trying to match Xbox at this point, and Xbox is going to press that advantage as much as possible between first party, between third party, between second party deals. It does not matter. They're going to press that advantage because they know it's their game to lose right now, pun intended. So I think it's going to be a big year. Yeah.
I mean, great point, Mav. Let's get your opinion on this, and then we'll have one more topic about Mav. I mean, look, Microsoft. It seems like the deck is stacked. We're all here speculating on what could be released, and they have so many studios that are pumping out games. 36 teams, 36 potential different games being worked on. No one wants to see these games eat each other's lunches, right? We all want to see them release these titles and have all the room in the world to grow their IPs. How big of a year do you think Microsoft is going to have?
It's going to be huge. When we look at all the numbers of the studios and the projects they have in the works, I mean, you're talking about upwards of 60 ongoing projects.
Yeah.
That's not a made up number. It sounds crazy, but that is real, and it's only going to grow. We just got other news that Undead Labs is creating this support studio that's to help not only them, but potentially the other studios, right? What they're doing is building this machine of just pumping out content from all these different sources of all these different developers, right? So it's going to be absolutely insane. 2022, there's going to be some surprises. Machine Games, I was with Pong before thinking, look, all the talk was Wolfenstein 3 and all these things. Personally, I'm not convinced right now that their next game is Wolfenstein 3. Right now, I'm thinking it could be something like Quake. It could be something out of the box, out of the blue. It could be something that we're not expecting. If you look at their history, and I was kind of like looking around at things when you guys were talking. I mean, 2014 New Order, 2015 The Old Blood, 2016 Quake Dimensions of the Past came out for Windows PC. 2017 Wolfenstein 2, 2019 Young Blood and Cyberpilot. 2021 Quake Dimensions of the Machine came out for other platforms as well. Then also you have the untitled Indiana Jones game announcement as well. It seems like the last major, numbered release for Wolfenstein was back in 2017, and they've done a couple expansions since then. I'm surprised. For me, if Wolfenstein 3 was the next game, I think it would have hit last year. I'm thinking there's something else going on here.
Factor COVID in. You can take out basically 1 year from.
Yeah, but you look at all those expansions were big expansions. Those were, and Youngblood was its own thing. They were on a 1 to 2 year dev cycle on each one of these games, pumping out games frequently. It's been 4 years since Wolfenstein 2, right? It's been 4 years since Wolfenstein 2 now. Going into 5.
Five this year, yeah, indeed.
So,
yeah.
I'm just thinking, with their involvement with the Quake franchise in the past.
Yeah.
It would not surprise me if they have been co-developing Quake with id, as Pong said, and that was potentially their next project, as well as working on the Indiana Jones game. That would not surprise me at all, because I think part of the reason of bringing out that Quake remaster was to drive interest back into the franchise. So I'm just throwing it out there. It's a curveball, right? But if that could be potential next game from Machine Games, and if that happened this year, or if it's Wolfenstein 3, either one, it wouldn't surprise me, right? But being said that they have to have one this year, I don't know if they have to deliver anything this year, because they are going to have that first-person shooter with Redfall as well, because that game is a co-op open world shooter from Arcane.
Very good point.
They're going to have that. They have
Borderlands,
Forza Motorsport. I can almost guarantee you that's going to drop this year. Right? That's another huge one. You have Starfield, which is also another first-person / third-person game. It's going to click with a lot of people that are fans of different franchises. Then we have, like Pong said, Stalker 2, and we don't even know about the deals that that they're going to make with third-party companies that are going to drop this year. We got a taste of it last year. That was only the tip of the iceberg. Remember when we got that news from MLB The Show coming to Game Pass day one, and we got that news from Outriders coming to Game Pass day one? How much of a shift and change that was from the thinking of what's possible now? Before it was just Microsoft first-party stuff and some indies that were going into Game Pass day one. The tides have changed. The world has shifted. Now we're getting third-party big publisher games into Game Pass day one. And they don't necessarily have to have something from every category from their own studios to fill that void. They can go anywhere and fill that void, and if they need to, until they have that from all of their studios dropping in 2023, 2024, 2025. The other thing about Obsidian, I don't know if that game release every year is necessarily meant starting now. I think that's for like once Avowed hits and following ongoing after that, because they're building up to that and they have those projects in the works. I think starting at Avowed, which is probably 2023, we're going to see a release in 2024, then a release in 2025, and a release in 2026, and so on. And I think that's probably what we're going to see from Obsidian. But as far as Machine Games in this whole Wolfenstein thing, man, I'm like, I'm up in the air on it now, because all the insiders were saying Wolfenstein 3 was due to it being announced, and it was going to come out last year, and they were expecting an announcement at E3, and they're expecting an announcement at this time, and we haven't even heard an announcement of that game yet, and instead we got an announcement of Indiana Jones.
Yeah, that's
right?
true.
So
yeah.
All these insiders that keep saying this stuff, man, I'm like, I don't know. They just keep missing on so many different things. That
well, that's why you got to take everything with a grain of salt, right?
100%.
Obviously, right. I mean, and of course, it really depends on who's saying it, because again, stick with people we obviously Clobriel's a good guy to follow. We've also you can follow Jez Corden. Obviously, he's on the Windows from Windows Central. He's also on the Xbox 2 podcast. I happen to really dig my heels into and become very good friends with Special Nick and John and Jordy and One Bad Mother over at Xbox Era. So I mean, when they talk, I certainly listen as well. So just be careful where you get your information from.
Yeah, 100%. I personally, for me, like if it's Wolfenstein 3 or something else, I think we'll see at the latest something from Machine Games in 2023. But I don't know what it's going to be. And we'll see what it is. I think whenever they announce it, it's going to be either Wolfenstein is going to be a huge leap and look way different than we've ever seen it before, with graphics and fidelity and gameplay, and that's why they've been putting extra time into it, or it's going to be something out of left field. And I just don't like that talent. That studio is so talented, man. It makes me question, like, when this whole acquisition happened, was there a conversation, about potentially even something else, them working on something else from Microsoft stable?
You never know.
Dude, there's so much potential there with that studio. That studio came from the founders of Starbreeze. Starbreeze made Escape from Butcher Bay.
Yes, they did.
Right? They were capable of doing great things. Also, they had worked on, I think, The Darkness back in the day, which was a great 360
Darkness
game.
was awesome, dude. I love that.
Replaying it.
And so these founders of Starbreeze left and created Machine Games. And then what they do, they took an existing IP and brought it back to life in a way that was huge. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They went in and worked on Quake and did good work there. They have, and they're working on another existing IP with Indiana Jones. For me, if I'm Xbox and I'm Microsoft and I'm saying, okay, we got all these IPs and we're looking for a developer to bring some other stuff to life, and you're working with Bethesda, I don't know, man. There could be something else that we just don't know about. And that's all I'm gonna say. I'm not saying there is. I'm just saying there could be something we don't know about that gets announced, other than just what we're expecting.
Well, listen, everyone had fantastic points.
Boom, I forgot one game.
Please add it.
I think that is heavily rumored. A lot of these insiders you mentioned talked about that, and that is the console port for Age of Empires 4.
Oh yes, absolutely.
Which both Jez and Rand, shout out to the Xbox 2, state they're confident. I asked them directly during their show, and they stated on the show confidently, both of them, that they thought first half of this year. So
first half, that could definitely bridge that gap.
How big of a deal would that be for Age of Empires on Xbox? Holy shit, that would be. And I've never played an Age of Empires games.
Ooh, you're missing out.
It's my most played game of 2021. I'm still playing that game every day for like 2 hours at least.
I would play that game.
It's amazing.
The last RTS game that I played that never got a sequel is worth at least $300 right now on eBay, that I don't think any of you have ever played. It's one of my favorite RTSs of all time, Aliens versus Predator. Oh my God, it was so freaking. I still own it. I own the sealed copy and an open copy. It's one of my favorite RTS games of all time. I would actually play this game if I could use a controller rather than the keyboard and mouse.
Here's the hope for me, Boom, is that Age of Empires 4 comes to console, and because it's in Game Pass, you got a lot more engagement on a huge title like that than before, where people were like nervous to try a game like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping that Age of Empires 4 comes out, it's successful, and then it opens the floodgates for RTS games to start coming to consoles.
No, that would be really good. But listen, folks, as we close in on the 2-hour mark, we still have a few minutes. I kind of want to just bring in one small topic, get everyone's opinion, and we'll get everyone out of here. It was announced, folks, big news for Sea of Thieves. First and foremost, they announced that 5 million people purchased the game that's available on Xbox Game Pass on Steam. 5 million sales of Sea of Thieves. What's interesting, and I have the numbers literally right in front of me, the player count. If you think that this is not a game that's moving mountains for Microsoft and Rare right now, here's a number that you may want to check out. In the last 30 days, 15.551 million people are playing this game. In December, it was over 16 million, and in 2021 topped out at almost 22 million people playing this game on a regular basis. Pong, I'll start with you, brother. Is this great news for Sea of Thieves and Rare specifically? How big of a deal is 5 million people buying a game that they could actually just play in Xbox Game Pass?
No, we've talked about this previously after the Pirates of the Caribbean launched, right? And how many people were engaging in it. I even engaged in it, and I'm not a Sea of Thieves player at all. This is huge. This is actually a bigger deal for Xbox because this was kind of their first. If you think back, this is probably one of the first games that they tested their new philosophy on, that they were going to allow the studios to kind of have control. And when they believed in a game, they were going to allow the studio to continue forward on that game, even if it wasn't successful out of the gate. So that philosophy change when Phil kind of took over started with Sea of Thieves, and it's proven to be a huge success. And obviously with the concerning news of Everwild, and I'll say concerning just because we don't know a whole lot, and there's just been so much hubbub around it, that for Rare to have this underneath their belt and for them to prove to Xbox that they, can take a game that might not have been the best out the gate and turn it around and turn it into a successful franchise definitely proves a lot, right? And so I think that is a huge W for Rare and that team over there, that they can kind of lean on Sea of Thieves and say, look, we know what we're doing here, right? We know, this may not be the Rare of old that a lot of us grew up on, but at the same time, this is a studio full of talented people. And even if we do have some bumps in the road, we can persevere and we can come out at the end golden, right? And Sea of Thieves is that, right? That's your trophy that you're holding up saying, see, we can do this. So I think this is gigantic for everybody involved. I love the Sea of Thieves community. I know that there's been just reading and watching. Again, I don't play Sea of Thieves. I did play it when Pirates of the Caribbean came out. Mav and I and Caitlin and 3-Bit and Psychonauts and everybody kind of jumped into it. We kind of played through the first part of it, and it was an awesome experience. It's just overall not my type of game, but I think that what they've shown is that they've got that magic in them, and they can go ahead and capture. And I know this is huge on streaming on PC. There's still a ton of people in this community who regularly put in a lot of time on Sea of Thieves. It's got legs, which is the huge part, and it's wide open for them to go wherever they want to, whether it's a Sea of Thieves 2 or whether it's just continue to expand. The Pirates of the Caribbean license, I'm sure, was not cheap to get from Disney. I'm sure that was not something that Xbox did lightly. That's a big investment. And now that they've got that underneath their belt and they can show the world, hey, this stuff kind of works. Again, we've talked about it here before. Goonies, there's Peter Pan, dude, Hook. Yeah. There's all these different ways they could go with Sea of Thieves in expansions to give it fresh narratives, to give it fresh content. That this game, we could see it last another 10 years. Who knows? But it's amazing. I'm happy for the team over there. I'm happy for Xbox that this has worked out so well. It is a shining example of what can happen when you let a studio that is confident in themselves and that believes in their vision move forward, even if it isn't the best out the gates, even if it does have some stumbles. You let them continue to work on it with that passion, with that love for a franchise, and suddenly you've got something really great at the end. And that's what Sea of Thieves is for me from the outside looking in. So love it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Boxenberg, let's get your final opinion on this. And again, we'll get everyone out of here. Big numbers for Rare and Sea of Thieves. 25 plus million people have played. In the last 30 days, almost 16 million people are actively playing it. That is pretty freaking ridiculous and awesome. And hey, 5 million sales on Steam is nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah, that is the true accomplishment to have 5 million sales on Steam alone, even though the game can be played through Game Pass. This is amazing. Just kills the whole narrative that Game Pass hurts the sales. Just saying. I want to go in one argument that Pong said at the very beginning of his turn, and that is that Sea of Thieves was kind of the first tryout for the new Microsoft. There was actually an interview with the studio head 2 or 3 months ago where he actually talked about that, because Sea of Thieves was one of the first games that actually came to Game Pass day one. And he was like absolutely not convinced that this could work. And he said, well, Microsoft, it's your money, but do you really think, what if this game doesn't sell anymore? What if, then they said that's totally fine. If you don't say zero, if you don't sell any copies, that's totally fine for us. And he was like, okay, but what if we don't have a player base? And that's totally fine for us too. And maybe the player base will pick up a year or two later. That was literally the answer that Microsoft gave to the studio head of Rare. I can't remember his name, but yeah. So Pong was absolutely right. That was kind of the blueprint for the new philosophy at Microsoft. And to see that this turns out so well is awesome. It's it shows that the philosophy actually pays off, that games can have a longevity to it. We talked earlier about State of Decay 2. I think that is a similar case here. It was also one of the first games that came to Game Pass day one, and here we are a couple of years later, 10 million plus players for that game as well. That is just awesome, and it shows the potential that Game Pass can provide, not just to give you a big player base, but to boost your sales on Steam, to boost your player base that is then invested with other ways of either monetization or add-ons or whatever. Just great to see. Yeah, nothing more to add.
Yeah, I mean, good stuff. I mean, Mav, obviously you do a lot of streaming. Out of all of us, you were always streaming on Twitch at one way or another. Sea of Thieves is one of the big ones. What are your takeaways from the newly recently revealed 5 million sales on Steam, which is again extremely impressive? And what are your thoughts on Sea of Thieves? Where do they go from here?
I think that Sea of Thieves is one of those games that is just engaging and going to continue to live on. Just with the formula that they've developed and the content. Remember when they announced that, hey, we're going to introduce new content like every month,
Yep.
after development, they kind of brought that game really into like the forefront, and with all those add-ons and all those updates, they just got player engagement involved. And just like we talked about with State of Decay, they learned something with Sea of Thieves as well, how to support a game long term and grow a player base, right? And they're using this formula with a lot of their franchises now. Whether people like that or not, that's kind of what the new Microsoft is. And these games are going to live in Game Pass. You're
Yep.
going to be able to purchase them separately, but you're also going to have access to these games that are going to get better over time and add content over time to keep the engagement. Because what they found from franchises like Minecraft, Sea of Thieves, State of Decay, all these other games that live on kind of, is with that engagement, with those updates, with all of this uh, player service type stuff they keep doing in all these games. Guess what? When you invest back into the games that are already shipped, they still sell. They don't stop selling, right? It's not like a one off. You release it, it's done, move on to the next. You got to spend another 6 years developing the next game, hope it sells, done with it, move on, repeat the process. That's not what games are anymore. When it's like Halo Infinite, when we're talking about that earlier a little bit, and I wanted to chime back in on that earlier about them taking the 6 years to develop that game, right? You release it, and if you don't come out with add-on content and new stories and new stuff over time, the player base will shrink. You'll lose engagement. You'll lose interest over time. That's what they learned from Sea of Thieves, right? And Sea of Thieves is, my daughter loves it. And you can, the thing about that game is it's something like you won't play it for months, right? Then you go back to it, and it feels fresh and new all over again. And this is what happens with players. They've really clicked with something with this. It's a really well made game.
Indeed.
Rare is doing excellent work with it. The updates, the quality of life, the graphics, all these things are keep making these games better. So it's going to continue to sell. The next conversation we'll have on one of your on one of your shows, Boom, will be Sea of Thieves has hit 10 million in sales
Yeah.
and has had 50 million players, because it's not going to die. It's just going to grow this generation with the popularity of Game Pass and Xbox. I guarantee you that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, listen, folks, what a great 2-hour show to open up 2022 for all of us on the Xbox Factor podcast. I cannot thank enough of the wow, man. We had 300 people here today. That's bonkers. I mean, and I honestly am extremely humbled by the incredible amount of support. We're rolling. We are just under 700 subs away from 10K. If you're new to the program, please consider hitting that subscribe button. Of course, before you get on out of here, hit the like button. That would be extremely helpful for sure. I just got to just grab one more super chat that came in late from Jericho. Drops an outstanding $7 super chat and says, Jeffrey Card said in a stream around September last year that they would have the fastest dev cycle ever to ship 3. I'm assuming ship 3 in 2022. Yeah, I actually did hear that they are really working on a very fast dev cycle, and I don't think the quality is going to be an issue. I just think that they are really just working really hard. But let's get to the outros, and we'll get everyone out of here, and we'll start first with, of course, Pong Soul. Listen, dude, your Saturday show, one of my favorite things to listen to in the morning when I'm making breakfast for Mrs. Boom after our hike. Looking forward to having you and Steel Rain return. Please, by all means, talk about your show on Saturday. Talk about where people could reach out to you on social media, and what other programs are you attached to, my friend?
Yeah, great to be back at it again after 2 weeks. Thank you so much, Boom. Boxenberger, obviously, Mav, brothers, great to be here with you as well, of course, and to try to knock some of the rust off after 2 weeks of not doing this. It was kind of fun.
So rusty, man. I mean, what's wrong with you?
I know, right? I was a little bit slow on the draw, but no, it was awesome to be here. Chat, great to see you all again as well. And real quick, before I do my outro, I don't know how many people in the community are aware, but anybody who has been in this community probably has seen Spooky Sprocket at some point.
Yes.
Please continue to keep him in your prayers. For anybody who doesn't know, he was found unconscious in his home the other day. And he's been in the hospital ever since. He is in coma. He's had some brain swelling. So please keep him in your prayers and thoughts, however you go about doing that. But a great member of this community, somebody that I personally had tons of interactions with. Obviously, been on his show. He's been on with us on Xbox Ultimate, one of his first shows ever that he did. So please, again, real life here, folks. You just never know from day to day. So please keep him in your prayers and thoughts, and hope he gets better, and can't wait to see you back soon, brother, for sure. But other than that, hey, this week we are full go on all the shows. So obviously Thursday, PM in the PM, we'll be back. That's right. Get to see Mav and I's ugly faces again on Thursday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 o'clock Central Time. Don't know what we're going to talk about. We've got 2 weeks of news to go through. Not much, but we're going to find something. So be there. PM in the PM over on Fun Speculations channel. And then obviously Friday nights back over there, Xbox Ultimate with the crew. Going to be great to be back there again as well. Let Mav talk about that. Saturday mornings. That's right. Steele and I. Yo, look. We do 3-hour plus shows. We got 2 weeks built up of this. Okay, I don't know how long this Saturday show is going to go.
It's going to be a 9-hour show.
It might be an all-day fiesta, right? Because Steele and I have not had a chance to play many games together. He's been busy with family and stuff. I've been busy over here on this side. We got a lot to discuss. So Saturday mornings, over obviously Living Split Screen is the channel. Split Screen's all one word. Find my brother from another, Steel Rain, and I there. It's going to be 10 a.m. Eastern, 9 o'clock Central Time. Be there. We got a lot to talk about. That's Living Split Screen. And then Saturday nights back on the Shop Podcast, PTK, Blam, Centurion, Fuzzy Belvedere, and myself. We got, again, another 2-week off show as well. So we're going to have a fun time over there, 9 p.m. or 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 o'clock Central Time, Saturday nights. Be there. The Shop Podcast, PTK, Blam's channel. Otherwise, fantastic show. Thank you all for coming out. Again, over 300 people. That's just amazing. Thank you for being here. Hope you all had great holidays. Please be safe. Love you all. And we'll talk to you all real soon. Don't forget, it's the golden age of gaming. If you didn't hear all the stuff we were just talking about now, it's the golden age of gaming. So play what you love what you play. We'll see you soon.
Love it. Boxenberger, please, by all means, sell your brand. Tell everyone about your incredible YouTube channel. Talk about the new video you just dropped the other day. And more important, where can people reach out to you on social media?
Yeah, first, thanks again for having me. It's always a blast. And like Pong said, we had to dust off the rust here a little bit, but I'm glad we are back in the podcasting mode. I'll be on the Midweek Mix-Up podcast tomorrow from Wandering Dutch on his channel. Got some big announcements from my channel coming really soon as well. So looking forward to that. And yeah, people can find me basically everywhere on the Boxenberger, like you said, also here on YouTube, where I do have my YouTube channel. I just dropped the other day a video about the best games available in Game Pass. Last week, I dropped the video about Xbox in 2022. What first-party games, what third-party games are announced, which are rumored and which are likely to drop. We have a talk about that. So if you're into stuff like that, definitely check the channel out. And yeah, boom, I can't wait for next week to be with, of course, you, Pong, Mav, and then Mr. Joanna Dark here full-time on the show. Really excited for that. So yeah, thanks everyone and have a good one.
Yeah, thank you. And last and certainly not least, he is obviously someone that puts out incredible content and quite an abundance. You have Fun Pop. You got the show on Friday night with the Magnificent Seven. You have PM in the PM, which is just a freaking awesome pun on words. I absolutely love it. Mav, by all means, brother, sell your incredible brand. Tell everyone where they can reach out to you on social media, but more importantly, where could people sub your incredible YouTube channel?
Well, thanks, Boom. And this was a blast getting back in the seat here at Xbox Factor Podcast with Pong and Archimedes. And shout out to Mr. Joanna Dark, who's with us today. So if you aren't familiar with Fun Speculation, that's what we do over on Fun Speculation on YouTube. That's where also you can find me on Twitter. So check out the YouTube channel, Fun Speculation. We do have multiple shows. We have Fun Pop, as alluded to, on Wednesdays, where we talk about movies and TV shows and lots of fun stuff like that. Games as well. Thursdays with my dude above me here, Pong Soul, where we would find a couple topics to deep dive on. We keep it a couple subjects where we just spend a lot of time just focusing on that. It was a lot of fun. Come check us out. That's Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. Friday nights is Xbox Ultimate Podcast, and we're 8 now because Jasper has joined the crew.
So
over
it's
there.
The Magnificent Eights, Crazy Eights. I love
Crazy
it.
Eights maybe is where we're gonna go. I don't know, man. I got lots of suggestions on that. Not everybody can be there every week, obviously, right? So, we're just gonna fill it out how it goes every week. But we're looking forward to our first show back in a while on Friday night. It's gonna be a blast. And looking forward to that. And then Saturdays we got Fun Speculation Podcast with Key and Fuzzy Belvedere, where we talk about all platforms. So just man, I'm loving doing this, loving podcasting. I'm hoping you guys enjoy the content. Come check it out if you haven't already. And give us a sub, please, if you like it.
Yep, absolutely. You should be subscribed. If you like the content that I put out, you definitely should be subscribed to these gentlemen. They put out incredible shows each and every week, and they are some of the most positive people in the community. And that's really what you want, right? You want to subscribe to people that are positive, that don't use hate or clickbait for their stuff, and none of us do. And that's why I think we are we're going to continue to succeed. Mrs. Joanna Darkender says the 8th wonders of the world. I like that for the
maybe.
Crazy Eight.
A little long.
It's
eight. Wow. 8 wonders of the world. 8. Wow.
I love it. That's great. Listen, folks, thank you again for supporting Double Barrel Gaming in my trek to 10K. I'm hoping to hit that within the first quarter of this year. And with your support, I can, in fact, do that. Please share the YouTube channel out to your friends. Put it out there for me. It would be greatly appreciated. Of course, hit the like button on your way out. And, of course, I'll close out the show with something that is important to me. Hopefully one day be important to you. And that's something that my dad taught me with kids. And I'll never get tired of saying it. He said, son, treat others how you want to be treated. And also, it doesn't cost anything to be nice. You live by those rules, and I can guarantee you're going to have an awesome day. So take care, everyone. We'll see you next week on the newest episode of the Xbox Factor Podcast.